trial of warlord Bosco Ntaganda at the ICC. The trial will continue tomorrow. Earlier, lawyers argued that the former M23 commander has no case to answer to. Ntaganda testified before the International Criminal Court on Wednesday. He faces several charges of war crimes and crimes against humanity. They're linked to the murder, rape and recruitment of thousands of child soldiers and sex slaves between 2002 and 2003. Ntaganda has pleaded not guilty to all charges, but if convicted, he faces up to 30 years behind bars or life imprisonment. Let's get to more on that now. CGTN's Elena Casas is following the case from Brussels. Elena, of course, as we know, there was an attempt to push for an adjournment by Ntaganda's lawyers. What more can you tell us about this?
Well, Ntaganda's lawyers clearly seem keen to buy time. He was supposed to start his testimony, his first, of course, in his own defence since this case began in 2015 on Wednesday morning. But his lawyers first called for a no case to answer motion and then asked for the case to be adjourned. Now, both of those requests were rejected by the court. The defence did want to adjourn the trial on the grounds that the prosecution now wants new evidence to be admitted. Now, that evidence is tapes of phone calls that Ntaganda made with people on the outside world back in Uganda since he's been in prison in The Hague. They obviously believe they contain incriminating evidence and they want those tapes to be admitted as evidence. Now, the court is deciding if that's admissible or not, but they did decide that in the meantime the trial cannot be adjourned, whereas the defence said that they needed extra time to examine that evidence and prepare their response to it. So Ntaganda did start testifying this afternoon despite his defence's best attempts to postpone that, but he was cross-examined first by his own defence lawyer rather than by the prosecution, and so we didn't learn anything of enormous significance today. He just confirmed his identity, the fact that he'd lost relatives in the Rwandan genocide and that he first became involved in conflict aged 17, but we haven't yet heard his defence to the charges.
And the other key question, of course, is what is the likely impact of this case on other rebel leaders or rebel groups, especially those using child soldiers? I imagine at some point it's hoped that this case may act as an example for others.
Absolutely. The ICC hopes to set a precedent in this case that could be used for previous ones, including, for example, the case that they would love to bring more than any other against the Lord Resistance Army leader Joseph Kony, who of course has yet to be arrested, but against whom the ICC are preparing a case for a long time. So they very much would like to get a conviction for Ntaganda, particularly on the issue of enlisting child soldiers. They've got the names and testimony of nearly 300 people who say they were recruited as children under Ntaganda's control and command, and so they're very keen to get a conviction on these cases. This case, though, is likely to take a very long time before we get that far. Ntaganda's lawyers are already stalling for time, as I say, and they also want to hear testimony from no fewer than 109 defence witnesses, so we're still a long way from a conclusion. This could take months or indeed years.
A long way indeed. Thank you very much, Elena Casas, joining us there from Brussels on that Bosco Ntaganda case that, as she says, is due to continue tomorrow.